If you got this question on an exam, solve each equation for n and r. In part A, they would add the word algebraically. They don't want you to guess and check. They want to see that you know how to use a formula and work with it. Okay? Because if you could guess and check, well, we'll do the guess and check after. First, I'm going to show you the algebraically. Algebraically says, well, I have a formula for NP2. The formula for NP2 is n factorial over n minus 2 factorial, and it's equal to 56. So now we're going to learn, how do we work with factorials? What does it mean? Well, if I gave you, just pick a random number. 7. If I gave you 7 factorial and 2 less would be 5 factorial, if you wrote this out, you'd have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And on the bottom, you'd have 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And a whole bunch of this would cancel out, right? So how do we do the same thing when you have n? Well, the first thing you're going to have to do is decide when you're expanding these, because what I could have done here, instead of multiplying them all out with my 7 and 5, can you see that 7 factorial is the same as 7 times 6 times 5 factorial? Instead of keep going down all the way to 1, I could stop at any number and add the exclamation mark, because that 5 factorial means go from 5, then 5, then 4, then 3, then 2 times 1. And I have 5 factorial on the bottom. Instead of multiplying that out, I could have just left that at 5 factorial. Does it make sense that these would simplify and go away? So our goal here is to get rid of the exclamation mark, because then we can work with this mathematically, maybe using something we've learned in the past. And in order to do that, we always expand the bigger one. Notice 7 is bigger than 5, until we get to the smaller one, because when you get to the smaller one, then they're going to cancel out. So the first thing you have to do with an algebraic expression is decide which factorial is bigger. Is n factorial or n minus 2 factorial, which is the bigger number? Everybody agree that n is going to be bigger than n minus 2, because n minus 2 is 2 less than n. So we start with n, and we start expanding n. So we would start by going n, and then we multiply by 1 less. How do I write 1 less? N minus 1. And then we multiply by 1 less, which is, and we keep going until we hit that 1 on the bottom. Can you see you would still go n minus 3, n minus 4, all the way down to 2 times 1? So when I get to this one, I'm going to just say, I would have to keep going from there. And that's exactly what I have on the bottom. So these will simplify. And it's still equal to 56. What does that leave us with? N times n minus 1. That's a quadratic, right? I'd have n squared minus n. How do you solve quadratic equations? Made one side. So are you okay if I move the 56 over to the left-hand side and make the one side equal to 0? Does this factor nice? 8 and 7. 8's going to be negative. 7's going to be positive. So we get two answers. N could equal 8, or n could equal negative 7. Now, with factorials, factorials make sense for numbers bigger than 1, and we have a definition for 0, but you can't do a negative factorial. So this answer here is extraneous. So on these questions, they're going to add the word algebraically because they want to see that you know how to algebraically simplify factorials. Now, if you didn't have to do this one algebraically, and you sort of use the fundamental counting principle, right? 2 means how many spaces? I need 2 spaces that equal 56. I need to start with one number and then do one less. What multiplies to give you 56? 7 times 8. So it'd be 8 times 7 would be 56. And then you would know that n has to be 8. Is that what we found? Yes. Okay. But they don't let you do that on that question. The second one, however, is one that they would let you. This one wouldn't have algebraic in there. This one most likely would be a multiple choice question where you just have to figure things out. Well, if I went to the algebraic formula, this would be 5 factorial over 5 minus r factorial. And it just isn't nice to expand because you know that 5 is bigger, but you still have to sort of use a guess and check in order to figure that out. So what we're going to do for this one is we're going to think about the spaces. It needs to equal 20. If I had one space and started with a 5, would that be enough? No. So then I add another space and put a 4. Is that enough? Yes. So r is 2. As straightforward as that. Okay? Questions for this one is just one question number 10. The other word problem, the he one, has anyone figured it out yet? What's that? H-E what?